Hi, I'm Judith Dreyer. Thank you for joining me for this podcast series, The Holistic Nature of Us. My intent is to take us, you and I, into a better understanding of the concepts behind our holistic nature and how that ties directly to the holistic nature of the world around us. How can we connect the dots in practical ways that we are nature and nature is in us? I will be featuring authors and educators, practitioners, and others whose passion for this earth helps us create bridges. We'll see what's trending, what's relevant to our world today, not just for land use, but to connect the dots between ourselves and nature. It's time for practical action and profound interchange so our natural world is valued once again. And today I'm delighted to introduce you to Debbie Sodergren. She is an energy body vibration expert, an international speaker, an author and owner of Up Vibrations LLC. She graduated from the New England School of Metaphysics in 1998 and is a nationally certified Reiki master teacher. Welcome, Deb. I'm delighted to have you here today.
Thank you, Judith. Yes, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I want to tell our listeners that you and I met at this wonderful event at the Storyteller's Cottage here in Simsbury, Connecticut, where we shared our stories about our book. Deb, by the way, is the author of Just Be, and she'll talk about that as we continue. And she had an amazing story, a healing story from health, as well as understanding her intuitive gifts. And on my wheel, which is the basis for this podcast, intuition is our within. It's the place where we run everything through our own truth, except we're not always taught how to listen to that, how to use that, or to respect that quality within us. And Deb has an exciting story about that. So Deb, tell us about your journey.
Oh, sure. So I started out when I was 4 years old. I had open heart surgery twice. And basically what happened was everybody has a hole in their heart. And for me, what that meant was I needed to have open heart surgery in order to fix that hole in my heart because apparently it could have killed me. So during my kindergarten physical, my parents took me to go to a doctor to get checked out. And while I was getting checked out, they decided that my hole wasn't going to fill in on its own like it normally does for people, and they needed to schedule me for surgery. So I had the surgery and came out of the surgery. It was an 8-hour surgery, and when I came out of the surgery, my parents came in to see me, and my mother realized that my color was off. Both my parents and my mom had expressed that to the doctor, and the doctor came in and reevaluated. And he realized that my stitches didn't take. So apparently they had stitched my heart, which was an interesting concept. So they decided I needed to have my surgery again. But being 4 years old, they weren't sure if my 4-year-old body could handle it. And it was during the second surgery that they went in and they put a new product in there called, I think it was silicone is what they used. I don't remember. It's been so long. I'm 53 now. So during that time, in the second surgery is where I had my out-of-body experience. And I basically left my body, and I remember it in my 4-year-old voice. So for me, the memory is I remember rising up above the table and looking down at her on the table, and there was like this spaghetti string of light that went from my belly button to her belly button. And I remember just kind of like floating around in the room above that. I don't know how high, maybe up near the ceiling. And then I remember slowly just kind of turning over and then continuing to go out. And leaving and going out, there was definitely bright light, but I wouldn't say there was this white light calling me. There was just brightness all around me. And for me, my experience, I remember these soap bubbles coming by. And anytime I brushed up against a soap bubble, it told me everything about my experience with it. So whether it didn't come in the form of a human body that we currently are here on this earth plane consciousness, it was more of a recollection of feelings and emotions. And it was lovely. It was lovely. It was very warm. It was very vibrant. You know how soap bubbles have, when light hits them, they have this iridescence about them. Mm-hmm. It was very vibrant, that iridescence. And I remember that. And I remember, it wasn't like a voice like my voice is penetrating right now using this particular vibration. But I remember, I don't know if it was a thought form or another being speaking with me, but I just remember them saying, you need to go back. It's not time. You're not done. Mm-hmm. You have a lot to do. And I remember agreeing and coming back down. And I don't remember like getting back into my body. For me, it was more like my eyes opened, and I recollect the doctor saying, you know, put her under. And I yelled, Mommy. So that was my recollection of it. I've studied with Dr. Norton Berkowitz with past life regression work up at Amherst, and many, many different things throughout my life as an adult, just trying to grasp once I connected back to this reality of remembering this and deciding it's time to use it. Because growing up, after I had my surgery, I remember that I would leave my body at night and I would go next door and see my best friend sleeping, or I would go across the street and see my grandparents who got up in the middle of the night, and, you know, I would say something to them. And I remember an adult sitting me down and saying, you can't talk like this. They're going to take you away. Is that what you want? And that's not what any 4 to 5 year old wants. So, right. I would lay in my bed at night and I would, you know, with my eyes closed, and I'd just like will myself to stay in my body, stay in my body, stay in my body. And eventually I stopped leaving my body and, you know, tried to go on living, quote unquote, a normal life, whatever that is for us humans.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Interesting. So at a very young age, you knew how to get out of body. You got information that you could validate, I would think, in the daytime world, but you were told to shut it off. So what did that do for you as a young child, an adolescent, and a young adult?
As a young child, I would try to fit in because my open heart surgery had made me, quote unquote, different. Growing up with siblings, if you talk to my siblings, they'd be like, oh yeah, you were the special one. You got special treatment. And from my perspective, I didn't get special treatment. I was treated just like my siblings. And probably if you asked my parents, they probably would agree too that they didn't give me any special treatment. It was all the same. I've been very blessed as a young person that I never have been medicated for any medical procedures or dental work. Apparently, if you've had open heart surgery, most patients have to go and have special medication before they have any procedure done. That is not my case at all. I gave birth 3 times to 3 beautiful souls, naturally, without anything going on with that. I had a cardiologist on call for the just in case, and the just in case never happened, so that was good. And as a adult now, again, still no issues. I feel wonderful. It's, you know, it's a lovely, lovely journey, and that's exactly what this is. It's a journey. For me, there is no destination. This is an experience, and the experience for me is, yes, everything is very vibrant on the other side as far as the colors were intensified, but I don't remember being in that bubble form. I don't remember being able to feel like we feel when we're in our skin, like the pure essence of joy, like when you're holding a baby or looking at one of your children, or the sadness when somebody does leave the physical world to go to the other side. I don't remember experiencing that feeling. So for me, that's an experience that I chose to come here for, and I'm really excited to experience it in all of its glory. To me, there's no bad decision.
Mm-hmm.
I've always taught my children and my clients that I work with that the choice that you make is the right choice at the time that you make it. The good news is you have free choice, that you can change it the next minute.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, we forget about that, don't we? We seem to get locked into the end result rather than experiencing the journey in the moment. And that's what I loved about your talks and your book, is that you constantly remind us, because of your personal experience, of staying in the moment, and that can be elusive sometimes, or we can beat ourselves up if we don't feel we're in the moment. But the bottom line is to go with the flow, is to just let go, let your day unfold. If you feel like you should be working it in the morning, so pick up your pen and do what you need to do and get the job done. But when it's time to rest or to move on, that's also being in the moment, too. I'd love you to talk more about your intuitive journey and your intuitive gifts that developed as you were going through these experiences.
Sure. So for me, I tried to grow up and fit in the world of what the world wanted me to do. So I knew I had these gifts, but nobody really wanted to talk about them. People were afraid of them. My mom has her own gifts, and in my opinion, I think she shies away from them. So it's interesting that I tried to fit in as a young teenager, and I tried to do what the world brought to me. I was very interested in this unknown world, in this other side, in this out-of-body experience. And there really wasn't anything in any of the colleges that would teach anything like this. The closest thing I could find was psychology. Mm-hmm. So mm-hmm. I did go to school and I did take psychology classes. And at one point, one of my professors at the end of class had said, "Oh, by the way, I'm a medium and I run a school called the New England School of Metaphysics. And if you're interested in learning more, come talk to me at the front of the room." And every molecule in my body just started vibrating. And I got so excited that I couldn't contain myself. And I just got up to the front, and I think I just opened my mouth and stuff just started coming out of me. And she was just kind of like smiling and taking it all in, but I was just rambling. I couldn't get it out fast enough that, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for. And I felt like such an outsider all these years. And finally, here it is. This is exactly what I'm looking for. This is what I'm thinking about. This is what I'm, constantly searching for. And, I ended up going to her school for 6 years. I took every class, every training they had to offer. I'm a Reiki master teacher. And at the end of it, they graduated me and and she said, "You're going to go on and you're going to do great things, and, just continue on this journey because it's coming. It's coming. And you're a luminary and you're supposed to help shed the light and lead the way." And yeah, so I had to get comfortable being uncomfortable, mm-hmm. meaning I had to stop shying away from this. And, that's how I started this. And it started even in my marriage, because I'd been newly married at the time, and I had started, my family, and I looked at my husband because I had found out about, these classes, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm interested in these metaphysical classes. I think this is exactly what I'm searching for, and they're not teaching this at UConn or mm-hmm. at, any of the universities." And he said, "As long as you're not in a cult, yeah, I want you to explore this. I want you to know you." Mm-hmm. And so getting that kind of support was really important for me, mm-hmm. that even though he didn't understand it and it wasn't for him, he supported me in what I needed to search for to make myself complete. And it's been a great process all these years. I have my own practice. I opened a business once my kids were grown. My first goal, my dream job, was to be an at-home mom. Mm-hmm. My parents both worked full time, and I always thought, well, geez, when I grow up, I want to be a mom. I want to be an at-home mom. Mm-hmm. And I gave up my position in marketing to be an at-home mom because my husband's job, cost him to travel. Mm-hmm. So we decided that was one of our goals, was one of us to stay home with the kids. And since he made the bigger salary, then I was going to stay home. And I loved it. But nobody told me how hard it was going to be. Mm-hmm. They made it sound like it was this dream thing of whatever they wanted to show you on TV of being an at-home mom, of, you know, the cleavers or whatever. And the reality was I was so busy taking care of everybody else that I lost taking care of myself. And I didn't even realize it until one day, you know, my husband had come home off a trip and we were busy with the kids and doing things. And finally, toward the end of the day after dinner, he was like, "Why are you so angry all the time?" And my response to him was, "I'm not angry all the time." and it kind of like,
I know the feeling.
Check in and go, wow, I really need to see what this is all about. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I had shared it with one of my aunts, and she was like, "Oh, you should go see this guy, Thich Nhat Hanh. He's a Tibetan monk. He's speaking at Dartmouth." And I went and saw Thich Nhat Hanh, and I was late, of course, and I got in the back of the room, and I'm sitting down, and it's really quiet. He's up on stage, and it's like, you know, they're in what I now know as they were having like this meditative moment. So I'm sitting down and it's dead silent. I'm just sitting there. And finally he gets up out of his chair and he walks to the corner of the stage of the back of the room of where I'm sitting. And it was like he was beaming at me. And he said, "Be thankful for the warm water to wash your dishes. Be thankful for the little mouths that you feed and the food that you have to feed them." And as he started going through all of these, be thankful, the tears just streamed down my face. And I thought, oh my God, he gets me. He's talking to me. This is like my message. And I ended up buying his book and reading his book. And that got me on the path of my mindfulness. And from going to the New England School of Metaphysics, I had had all this meditation training. And I would meditate what I thought I was meditating, and I would try all these different methodologies that were out there. But it wasn't until I was at that experience with Thich Nhat Hanh that I realized, oh, this is what it's all about. I'm so busy for everybody else, I don't know how to be with myself anymore. Mm-hmm. And I really had to learn how to be with myself. And then I decided, well, if I can do this with 3 kids and a spouse that travels and, you know, 2 dogs and chickens, then I can help other women be this. Mm-hmm. And that's when, after the kids were grown, the youngest one went off to school. I'm like, okay, hanging out the shingle. I don't care what other people think. You know, I'm coming out of the box. I'm getting myself out there. I'm going to be comfortable getting uncomfortable again, mm-hmm. and really step into what I came here to do, step into my authenticity, and just let me be me and not worry about the naysayers.
Mm-hmm. And you've done a beautiful job with that. Having been a stay-at-home mom myself, I can totally relate to what you said. There's moments when you want to pull your hair out and say, where am I? You know?
Yeah.
And for me, it's the dreams and the dreaming that brought me into a deeper sense of self that I found very enriching while my kids were growing up. And like you, I ended up devoting myself to those kinds of meditations and practices, which fed me on a deep inner level that I'm just now realizing the depth of what I did back then, raising the kids. And of course, Thich Nhat Hanh has such beautiful, his energy is so beautifully soft. It comes through the computer. That's his charisma, and his gentleness comes through. And what a great role model, because he reminds us over and over again to do just what you said, to be grateful in the moment, grateful that I can put food on the table, etc.
Yeah, and for me, that was a huge piece of that connection that I was missing. He ended up being a mentor for me because it helped me to go back home when I was reading the book, and I started connecting the dots like, wow, I've always loved gardening. And I thought it was because I grew up gardening. We lived and we grew our own food and we did a lot of canning. So it was innate for me to just do that because that's what I knew. But what I realized was, oh, being in the dirt, being barefoot on the grass, I was grounding myself. Mm-hmm. That's why I always felt wonderful coming in from the garden. That's why the kids were always wanting to be outside, mm-hmm. because they innately already were programmed to have that experience and honor that experience because it filled them back up. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was something that I had to connect the dots with. It was more of, yes, I grew up gardening, but it was because, it helped us save money so that we could grow our own food and mm-hmm. we could sustain ourselves. Where now looking at gardening from a perspective energetically for me of, oh, not only does it do that, but on a deeper level, it fills me back up. It brings me joy. It gets me centered. It gets me in the present moment. Mm-hmm. I take moments and I stop and I look at the plants and I can almost see their leaves vibrating. Mm-hmm. It's almost like if I stay present with them, I can feel them talking to me. I can feel them swaying, mm-hmm. almost smiling at me. I mean, some people might say, wow, this woman's a little wackadoo. She sounds really crazy. But I'm okay with that because mm-hmm. I'm doing me. And that's what's important because nobody else can do me. And if anybody is listening and mm-hmm. has been told, oh, you're strange, oh, you're this, oh, you're that, just accept it because we are all meant to be here having these experiences for ourselves so that collectively when we go back to source, we're all bringing a piece of it together. I've done studies. I've done a class on quantum physics with Dr. Richard Gerber. And what does he say? Everything's connected on a molecule level. It's two molecules coming together, vibrating at a certain frequency. Well, I choose to be happy, so I'm going to start hanging out with people that are happy. Gardening makes me happy. So that brings the frequency up. So if I can raise my frequency collectively, if everybody can start being happy and raising the frequency, we'll be in a happier place here on this earth.
Yes, and so many folks like yourself who are light workers are trying to do just that. And as you mentioned, our journey is a more intuitive one. It's using our inner senses as well as developing an inner life in order to impact the outer world. And that's a place that I think we're starting to be in the mainstream. We're starting to connect those dots in a more collective way, if you will. I just had a conversation on another radio show just the other day about the fact that, working with nature can be touchy. It can be a tricky subject to talk about because, like you said, people think it's out there, it's hippies, it's wackadoodle, like you said. And it really isn't. It's a personal experience. So I love the way you said, no one can do me. And I think when we all start to have our own personal experiences, we look at each other and say, yes, I honor your process. I get what you're doing. And in turn, hopefully you'll honor mine for what I'm doing. So that's beautiful, Deb. I really appreciate that. Let's talk about you've got a book, Just Be, out there, and it's Your Path to Meditation and Awareness, the Mindful Way to Love Your Life, which I highly encourage my listeners to get a copy of. But tell us about some tips. Give us 3 tips that somebody can do today.
So if you're feeling like you're stressed out, like you're in overwhelm and you don't have any clarity, everything's, you're just in this distress. One thing you can do is go into the bathroom, close the door, sit down, and close your eyes and take a breath. Really just take a nice big breath, count to 4, inhaling through your nose, and then exhale through your mouth and count to 4 in your head. Do this 3 different times. And what that does is that brings your presence into your body. And you start noticing things like you notice your heart beating. You start noticing how, wow, my blood is flowing and it's automatic. You start doing all these things. And when you start recognizing these things within you, have gratitude for it. Just a second. Just, oh, thank you, heart, for beating. Thank you, lungs, for going in and out. Thank you, stomach, for digesting the nourishment that I give you. Oh, thinking of that, maybe I can make better choices for my nourishment. I never say should, and I teach this with my clients. You should never should on yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so, I love that. I love that.
And there's no such thing as try. You either do or you don't. Just take the judgment away. Mm-hmm. If you didn't do something, you didn't do it. Now Correct. You know better and you have awareness and you can do better. It's just that simple. We always want to overcomplicate it. We want to be a victim of something. And it's because it's something we've been trained. And when we stop that and we start realizing nobody can make me feel a certain way, if I'm angry with somebody and I express it, and that person chooses to not talk to me, I might feel sad, but that's my feeling. They didn't make me feel sad. It's my feeling. So when we start having ownership of our emotions, we can then really open up to the awareness and stop judging ourselves and really get the growth of, okay, I'm X amount of years old and I came here to do something. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to get help in figuring it out. It's really that simple. We don't have to overcomplicate it. We don't have to take on the karma of the past generations. We can honor it. We can honor the depression. We can honor the generation after that of learning to save and learning to cut coupons and do all of that. But we don't have to own it. We can honor it and we can let it stay with them, and we can decide we do live in abundance. We do live in abundance. And when we start saying that to ourselves, then we start attracting that to ourselves. It's just a simple shift in our perception, and it's a change in our belief system.
I agree. But getting back to your tip about taking 3 breaths, several years ago I owned a health food store, and a woman came in who was going through breast cancer, and she was simply beside herself. And I asked her, whenever she feels this anxiety, could she just stop and take a breath? And just 3 breaths, and then continue with her anxiety if she wanted to, but just to stop and take 3 breaths. And eventually, my feeling is that when we do that, we can disconnect ourselves from whatever is distressing us in the moment, and we can start to build a different framework, as you mentioned, to look at it. But the breath is so interesting, important, intriguing, that it allows us this gift, the gift of stopping with our breath, which actually is our life force. It's absolutely essential to our life force.
Yeah, and another tip would be, the second tip I want to offer is, if you're feeling down, you're feeling blue, put on some music, put on your favorite song, crank it up, and just start moving, start dancing, because you can't be happy and sad at the same time. You can be in that flux of that transition of changing it, but you can instantly change your vibration and raise it by choosing to do something different, by doing that small action step. It's in thought, in word, in deed. First you think about it, you say something like, I gotta shift this, I gotta change something, I need to move, I need to do something different. Then take that action step, turn on the radio, start dancing, take like a 5-minute dance break. And then after that, check in with yourself. Did that help? Did you get unstuck? Do you feel like you're energized? Do you feel like you can focus? And after you do that reassessment, it's a great tool to use. And the third tip I want to give your listeners is, when you're talking to somebody face to face and you're in somebody's space and they're just venting on you, they're just like loading it on you, I want you to actively listen to them, but I want you to take your core of your body, and I want you to just shift your weight so that you either turning your body to the right or to the left, but you're still looking at them. What you're doing is you're unplugging in your solar plexus from them. So when somebody is, you're talking with somebody and you're face to face and you're standing shoulder to shoulder to them, like, standing at each other, mirroring them, you're everything that they're feeling is coming from their solar plexus, and they are plugging it into your energetic field. And depending where you are, you can take it on and feel yourself start draining, or if you've been trained and you know better, you can put up a shield. What I tell clients is just practice this. Just shift your solar plexus away so that you're not plugged in, and see how automatically they start diffusing that emotion that was just starting to get all fired up around their anxiety. And they start being present in the moment, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to go on about me. How are you? What's going on in your life? Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how this happens when you start playing with it. And if I can give a fourth tip, that's the fourth tip. Be playful, people. We've given up being playful. As children, we didn't take ourselves so serious. We didn't take everything in life so serious. We were playful about it. And when we made a mistake, we kind of like acknowledged it and moved on. We never like internalized it. So I just want to say for the fourth tip, be more playful and be gentle with yourself.
Thank you. Those are great suggestions for everyday use, and I appreciate you summarizing and saying them so sweetly so that it's practical. And I just want to remind my listeners that we have a transcript of this podcast, and what I usually do is I highlight all the tips as well as your contact information, so they'll have all of that at the end. So, Deb, I want to thank you for joining us here at Holistic Nature of Us. And I know I'm inspired by your practical talk and very practical advice. So this is Judith Dreyer, the author of At the Gardenscape book and blog. Deb, could you please give us your contact information?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. This has been a wonderful conversation. It's amazing how fast the time goes by when we start talking about this particular subject matter. So you can reach me. My website is www.upvibrations.com. And how else can you reach me? My email is debbie@upvibrations.com. And you can, all my other contact information is really at my website. I really tell everybody to go to my website because I have a lot of free information on there. If you want to just listen to like one of my 30-minute podcast shows and get to know who I am a little bit, and you'll know more about other things I offer. I have a freebie on there. Go get my freebie. It's going to be changing at the end of the month. The freebie right now is a free audio grounding, and it's less than 5 minutes long. You can upload it on your computer, upload it to your phone, and that way you'll always have it. And if you have questions, reach out to me. I get back to my people. So
good. Yeah. And don't forget, Just Be is on Amazon, correct?
Yes, my book is on Amazon, Just Be Your Path to Meditation and Awareness, and it also has a companion journal with it. So I think it's a bundle. It's like less than $20 for it, but it's such a great resource.
Wonderful. All right, folks. Again, I want to say thank you, and thank you all for listening. My book, At the Garden's Gate, is available at many distribution arms, including Amazon. My website is www.judithdreyer.com. And I'd like to remind all of you to please like and share the podcast. Let's get the word out. So again, everyone, thank you and have a great day.